father had a very serious illness and looked 95 at 43. I was unwell and a teenager and didn't want to take care of him. My father let me go, but these were his last words. When I was 15, my dad was just 43 years old, but you wouldn't have guessed it by looking at him. He was a strong, robust man who could handle anything life threw his way. At least, that's how I always saw it. But for 3 long years before that, I had watched this disease, a disease that would later take the life of the legendary Walter Payton, slowly drain the life out. It was like watching someone age decades in a matter of months. The man who had once been larger than life had been reduced to a mere shell of himself, looking more like a frail, jaundiced 95-year-old than the father I knew. Dad had always been a big guy. He had this presence about him, this aura of strength and stability. But the illness took all that away. He lost over 100 pounds, and with it, everything that made him the father I had known. But the thing is, at 15, you're not thinking about your parents' mortality. You're not thinking about anything beyond your own little world of teenage angst and selfish desires. At least I wasn't. One day I had my heart set on going somewhere. I can't even remember where it was now. But at that moment, it felt like the most important thing in the world. Dad, in his weakened state, had told me, no, and that should have been the end of it. But being a stubborn, entitled 15-year-old, I wasn't ready to take no for an answer, so I pestered him, relentlessly. For what felt like half an hour, I kept pushing and pushing, determined to get my way. I was so wrapped up in what I wanted that I didn't notice the toll it was taking on him. Eventually, he broke. It was like all the fight had drained out of him. All the strength he had left was just gone. He started to cry, tears streaming down his face as he looked at me and said, "Yes, you can go to X. I don't care anymore." His voice was choked with emotion, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had never seen him cry before, not once in my entire life. Seeing him so vulnerable, so defeated, it stopped me in my tracks. But even then, the selfish teenager inside me was more focused on the fact that I'd won, that I'd gotten what I wanted. I didn't fully grasp the significance of what had just happened. That moment stuck. It haunted. That was one of only 2 times I ever saw my dad cry. The second time was when he first saw me after his liver transplant. That transplant was supposed to be his second chance. Our families hoped that we might get him back, but his condition was too far gone. The disease had already taken too much from him, and he never made it out of the hospital. He passed away about 10 days after the surgery. Just like that, he was gone. Losing him was like having the ground ripped out from under me. It wasn't just losing a parent. It was losing the person who had always been my rock, the one who had always been there, no matter what. And the worst part? I couldn't shake the memory of that day when I pushed him beyond his limits. The day I saw him cry because of me. It's one of those mistakes that clings to you, that you can't ever fully forgive yourself for, no matter how much time passes. In the years that followed, I tried to rationalize it. I was just a kid. I didn't know any better. But deep down, I knew that was a cop-out. I had known even then that something was wrong, that he wasn't himself. But I ignored it because I was too wrapped up in my own world, in my own desires. I had failed to see the bigger picture, to recognize that my dad was fighting for his life while I was fighting for something as trivial as a night out. As I grew older, I started to understand the depth of my dad's love, the sacrifices he made for us, even when he was at his weakest. I realized that his tears that day weren't just about my relentless badgering. They were about everything he had lost, everything he knew he was going to miss. And in that moment, I had added to his pain instead of easing it. The weight of that realization is something I carry with me every day. It's a reminder of how fragile life is, how quickly things can change, and how important it is to cherish the people we love while we have them. I try to live my life in a way that honors my dad's memory, to be the kind of person he would be proud of. But no matter what I do, there's always that part of me that wishes I could go back, that I could undo that moment, or at least tell him how sorry I am, how much I love him, how much I miss him. Grief is a strange thing. It sneaks up on you when you least expect it, in the quiet moments when you're alone with your thoughts. And when it does, I'm taken back to that day, to the sound of my dad's voice breaking as he told me I could go, to the look in his eyes as the tears fell. It's a memory I wouldn't wish on anyone. It's mine, and I carry it with me, a constant reminder of the lessons I learned too late. If I could go back, I wouldn't care about going to X or anywhere else. I'd sit with him, hold his hand, and let him know that I was there, that I understood how much he was going through. I'd tell him how much he meant to me, how grateful I was for everything he had done, for the man he had been. But life doesn't give us do-overs, and all we can do is learn from our mistakes, try to be better, and hope that the people we love know how much they mean to us before it's too late. So, I guess that's why I'm telling this story. Not because I want sympathy, but because I hope someone out there might learn from my mistake, that maybe, just maybe, they'll take a step back and see the bigger picture before it's too late. Because once they're gone, all you're left with are the memories, and sometimes those memories are harder to live with than the loss itself. In the end, it's not about the things we want or the places we go. It's about the people we love and the time we have with, and that's something I try to remember every day, even when it's hard, even when the guilt creeps in. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that my dad loved me and I loved him, and that's what matters most.